Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I don't hear Suresh. Do you? Looks like he's talking. Okay, I think I can hear you now, Suresh. Or you there? No.
Any luck?
Whoa.
Okay. Any luck now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't know about anybody else. Asini, I heard from.
Great. I think like now I see we have Abhishek, Demutu, and Emri, Hasini, Priyanshu, and myself. Okay. I think we have the full quorum today. Yeah. Anyone wants to go first? I think like Abhishek, you've been having issues. Do you want to go? Are you
Uh,
still? Yeah.
yes, sir. Uh, right now, actually, I'm not having issues, but I tried to register this GenApp using PHP. So I was able to register it, but now module IDs. I might need to save the module ID, either IDs, or what we can do is make module IDs by ourselves. Like I was going through Nadim's code, instead of in the create experiment, instead of giving module IDs, application module IDs, it was just giving the module names. So can we create module IDs? Means when we are registering modules, can we create module IDs?
Oh, no, actually, no, just let me clarify something. So it's not during the experiment creation, you don't give module, but the interface ID. So the module is just during the deployment. So you create a module, and then like you deploy the module, and then also you create an interface to that particular module.
Yes.
And the interface is what the interface ID is what you will use when you run the experiment.
Okay. So is the interface is required? Actually, we don't need interface for means like if we are working on GenApp, we don't need interface.
Oh no, no. I think like Airavata, still that's the way you execute the application. So you cannot run the application using a module ID. Module is just a internal way to bind interfaces to deployments. So since Janap need to run an application in Airavata, you will still need to create an application interface also.
Okay. So I need to create the interface.
Yeah. So even though again this looks complex or looks weird when you are doing a simple application, but this will start making sense when you're running the same application created by Janap on the multiple resources. Like for instance, a Janap user might say run it on a local host, but next he will say run it on Amazon or on a cluster. So they all will still use the same interface. At that point, the others will get into the play. But in your simplest case, yeah, unfortunately, you have to do those three things. You need to create a module, you need to create a local deployment, and then also an interface. And then when you run it, you give the interface ID and say run it on
Okay.
localhost.
So I have to save it somewhere.
And they
Uh,
all get saved in the Airavata registry.
what?
They are in the Airavata registry. What do you mean by save it
Yes.
somewhere?
No, actually, when I need to run some experiment, suppose I saved a module, align module. We have a align module in GenApp. Suppose I registered align module, and now I want to use that module. So I must be need. I need an interface ID for running that module.
Yeah. So once you registered the module, immediately you'll also register an interface. Okay.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you do not know
Yes.
the interface ID, you can also always query Aira. I mean, that gets saved
Yes,
in the Airavata registry.
we can query in Arivata, but uh, it would be much better if we can save it somewhere so that we can directly get get it working.
Okay, so what I think the main question is, can we assign these IDs at the time we create them? So in other words, could I create a module ID and give it the name I want?
Yeah.
Um, can I
So
create an interface ID like my module name dash interface name in my local consideration? So let's say, align is one of the modules we use, so we can do align dash local or something like that. Otherwise, we'd have to make additional calls to Airavata to get that information at the time of execution. So that's what the basic question comes down to. Do we need to cache some information returned by Airavata in some accessible database during registration, or can we assign these IDs ourselves, using or have some kind of an ID to look up to get, so that
yeah.
we can just quickly have a key or a hash to get to the information.
Yeah, so I mean, like then for that question, so basically, then the question is this: for module, yes, you can like essentially whatever you gave for the name becomes an ID, but for interface, Airavata generates an ID mainly
Okay.
because then many of them, like let's say like you're registering an echo or like these kind of standard ones, everyone tried to register an echo, so you try to make it unique by prefixing or suffixing with some things.
Right.
So, so I think like then the basically the solution is when during the registration steps the ID gets returned back.
Hmm.
So once like you get that back, then like yeah, then you want to store that either into a file system or a database if you don't want to query every time.
Okay. Is there but I can just do a query of, sort of get interfaces by module or something like that.
Yeah, you should. Okay, yeah, I think that's possible. So let me check if there is an API method. But that's a reasonable question to ask. To see, give me all the interfaces registered for this modules. If there is no API method added, like yeah, that should be easy to add. Yeah, that lookup is easy.
Uh, Suresh, I just checked it. I was calling using the module ID. I was calling an experiment using the module ID, and it's working. Uh, I'm not giving the interface ID, but instead I'm giving the module ID, and it is working.
Maybe it's using a default. I don't know. Suresh?
Can you ask that question again? Vivek? I'm still not following.
He's saying
Hello?
he's executing without giving a module ID.
I'm giving the module ID instead of
I mean,
interface
not the
ID. You
module ID,
just
not
told
giving an
me.
Oh yeah,
interface
yeah,
ID.
that you cannot do. Because
He's
module
doing it
doesn't
though.
say what is the inputs outputs are. Module doesn't know that there what is the input you are supposed to give, what is the output you are expecting. That's defined in the interface.
Uh,
Does that answer your question, Abhishek?
uh, 1 minute.
Yeah, he's claiming he wasn't giving any interface ID.
Yeah, because that would be a little bit tricky because
Successfully running.
interface the module doesn't have any definitions of what the basically interface is nothing but it defines what the inputs outputs are. The interface to the application.
And then deployment is sort of where it's
Yeah,
running.
right. Yeah, that's right. So basically, there are only two things. Module is just like the binding in between. Basically, there is an interface, like which says the inputs output to the application, the interface to the application itself, and deployment is the deployment. So since one interface can have multiple deployments, multiple types of deployments, this kind of module is the one like which binds both of these in between.
So can a module have multiple interfaces?
Yes, that's the idea. That's the idea.
It might have different inputs and outputs.
Yeah, that's exactly the right. Yeah,
Okay.
because that many molecular dynamics applications are that way, right? Like you can
Mhm.
take Gaussian and run it in any number of ways, as an example.
Right.
So that's the
Okay.
idea. Like you only so for all of those, you still are deployed Gaussian on a machine on a one time,
Right.
and then also it's this is also the other side also is true, right? Which is an interface inputs outputs do not at all dictate how is the deployment is it an MPI or an OpenMP or a serial? So that's kind of like decoupled.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice. That makes sense. So really, if somebody wants to run a mod, okay. So what we're doing. Let's review it one more time. We're registering a module, um, and then we're registering the interface and the deployment or deployments. And then when we're executing, uh, sometime later, if we don't have any of the IDs, we need to make some kind of a call to get the interface and the deployments and then find the appropriate one.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there some information about like name? Is there some name that we can assign to
Yes, yes, fully yes.
the
Name
deployments?
something we define. Yeah.
So we can assign deployment names and interface names, so that
Yeah.
if we, I mean, we're not worried about interfaces because they're all the same right now. Although that may change in the future, I don't know. But for the deployments, then we could assign something like just the name of what we call the deployment local or Stampede or whatever. And it's tied to that module, and then we can get the ID and get the handle. Okay, so it takes an extra call, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I- but for interface we can assign name is not unique now. Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can hear you.
For an interface, name is not unique, I think.
The
Hello.
interface name what?
For an interface, name is not unique. So we can assign a name to two interfaces, same name.
Right, and it's attached to a module to the interface. So that way we can call it. We can right now our interfaces should be local for your local host testing, but those could potentially be multiple compute resources. So I mean, no, the interface we only need one. I getting confused. The interface we just need one. So you can call it whatever you want, and then the deployments you would assign to a specific um, compute resource, which in your case right now is local. And we can continue this after our meeting if you have further questions. Maybe in the I don't know within the hip chat, or we could have a separate meeting. Is it basically clear right now, Abhishek?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you don't have any immediate open questions. Okay. Okay, I guess we can go on.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go on. So while we are at it on the Janap, Priyanshu, do you have any blockings or like what are you been up to?
So I'm writing the C++ code for registering sample data on GenApp. I've written the code and I've integrated with GenApp in util languages Qt4. But I was having an issue with the fact that hello, I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
We're hearing you. Yes.
So there was just one issue while adding local submission details. I had put in that up in the forum.
What is the issue?
So while registering localhost, there's a function called register localhost. Inside that, there is a function add local submission details.
No, so there is okay. This where is this function? So now I'm looking at your like this is the C++ code. Where is so there is a so this may be the one like Nadeem wrote. You need to modify that. There is a because
inside Airavata there was a code in Java register sample data. So based upon
Yeah,
that
so-
code, I wrote the C++ version for it.
Yeah, Suresh, there was he sent a message
Yeah.
to developers list last night, and then I responded this morning, and it looks like it's in the it's something that's happening in the Airavata.cpp client SDK.
Yes, I understand. There is
So it's not Nadeem. I mean, it's not Nadeem's code. And Priyanshu has modeled it pretty much the same way that it's functioning in the PHP version and the Java versions that Abhishek has done. But the C++ version is getting this one error.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, like, for both of you, Abhishek and Priyanshu, I think like you guys need to submit patches on the client code, how you are using the Airavata client code to the Airavata client SDK repositories, as I was suggesting last week, because that way, like, we could try and we could improve, make sure those clients are good. So yeah, if Airavata.cpp something, the thrift generated one is bothering, then there is something wrong. So I think like the only way is I think it's tough to answer by looking at that exceptions and the messages. It'd be good if you can try the same thing.
okay, sir.
So you should
Okay.
say I suggest you submit a patch to the client SDK so that we could collectively debug and improve them.
So
Okay.
what do you mean by a patch to the client SDK?
So,
Do
so
you
what I'm
want them
trying
to send their example code that they're running
Yes.
as a patch?
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is, Emre, like the actual code, these higher level functions, the thrift and the Airavata API is a lower level function, right? Like register
Right.
localhost could be a function sample distributed with Airavata, which GenApp could also call, and which is actually in the Airavata repo so that like someone could try it and then make sure it's working, like the Java code.
So he's
this-
got some code that in C++ that's just
Yeah.
standalone that tries to register an application, and he's getting
Yeah,
this
so-
issue. So he should take that code and submit it as a patch.
No, I'm saying like so like I think I was trying to show this last week. Let me see if I can make my whiteboard visible here. Uh, can you see the whiteboard in the back? Can I write something there?
You can try. I can see it.
Okay.
Usually you get a dark color.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's pretty light.
yeah, I think like Ram is driving it. Wait, the marker.
You have to write them about 1-inch thick lines to see it well.
I think like no.
I think there's some little drawing tools on the side there. Draw.
Yeah,
But I've never tried it.
I never tried. I was just hesitating. Yeah, I think they're supposed to be. But anyway, let's give it a minute and we'll try that. So three can
I don't know. Or you could probably share your screen and bring up an app that you could draw in or something.
Yeah, that's fine. I think like let's do this try with the black colors. Okay. So basically, like we have Airavata server. So this is the Thrift API on the server side, right? So So this is the Airavata that's in the C++ case, Airavata.cpp, thread generated client, so which actually does it. So we have this higher level function, higher level class, which in this case Priyanshu is writing in C++, right? Or I would just call it a,
Register CPP.
yeah, a register function. So the register method. So in this method, I think like which is basically essentially calling here. So we need to debug these things, right? So I think it'd be useful if these are also like in this distribution, in this C++ distribution, we also include a sample, this samples to register. Okay, we write this as a function, as a register function, register local, and then write a main class here. So where we could all fly from a command line here within this, and
Right.
this is actually lives in the Airavata repo. So this is Airavata repo, the client SDK, right? So, and then you have the GenApp code. So if actually you maintain these codes here and call this same thing from this main class to test, and then like when you go to the GenApp, all you do is just call the same function which is called in the main class, which we all test.
That's exactly what, right, and that's exactly what they're doing. Is they're writing these register codes. I mean, they have the Java working and PHP working, but the C++ for some reason is giving an error. So
Yeah, so
they should create a.
yes, these codes belong to Naira and maintain Airavata repo so that they are constantly maintained and they are collectively debugged.
Right.
And you pull the same code here into the GenApp and try to use the same function.
Yeah, that's the idea. So what Priyanshu needs to do is to take his code and put it in some Git under what the samples directory under the C++ SDK.
Yes, so in this particular case, I'll send the URL. It will be the C++ one will be the Airavata client SDKs in the Airavata API directory. The client SDKs, C++ SDK, SRC main resources, and it has a directory called client samples. I'll actually put it on the chat. I put it on the chat. So what Priyanshu needs to do is submit a patch to this directory with his register samples clients. So this is where actually these are the codes like actually they're written by submitted by Nadeem back then. The create experiment, create project. So similarly, first thing is like Priyanshu can update these things to make it work with the current ones, and also put everything he's interacting with Airavata here, so that for instance, like next time he says, yeah, I have an error, we'll try this and then make sure like it's working, and or if there's any bugs, we fix it.
So when I look under the Airavata API client SDKs, C++ SDK, I don't see anything. I see source main and pom.xml.
Look inside the source main. Inside the source, there's a
This
main
is in the
inside
point
the
1.4 release.
Yeah, sorry, like this is the Maven organization. Yeah, that's coming from PHP Gateway.
Oh, client samples. Okay, it's way down there. Oh, so these are the ones that Nadeem created. Okay.
Can you just give me a phone 1 quick minute, sorry.
Should I add my code here?
Did you find that directory? Do you know where he's talking about, Priyanshu?
Yes, but I'm asking is should I add my code here only?
Can you repeat that?
So should I send a pull request to add my code here?
Yeah. So you need to. I don't know how. Yeah, you want to add your code. Yeah. Submit a patch. I guess or pull request. I don't know. I'm not a Git expert.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back here.
Okay. So Priyanshu, do you know what you need to do?
Sam, should I add my code here? So what should I do exactly?
So you submit the register. So you basically first submit the patches to this directory. Like, did you get the chat message?
Yes, sir.
Get the Git one. So just put all the
Yes.
C++ samples you are interacting with Airavata there, and then you submit a patch. Like, there are instructions on the Airavata website how to submit a patch. On the Airavata website how to contribute. So you take a GitHub pull request. You check out the code in GitHub and make a pull request. I sent that as a chat message. So you contribute that client samples onto this repo. I'll accept that patch and then we'll try that myself and then fix it if there's anything wrong.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Abhishek. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I
you
just
can
tried.
yeah. Go on.
Yes, sir. I just tried to put the app ID name. Means like I tried to register an app with a particular interface ID name, and I was able to do it. So is it like okay with Arivata, or means is it long?
Didn't get what do you mean by
I,
okay with that?
means there's something that we can do, but we should not.
No. Airavata expects you to work. Remember okay, let me share my screen here quickly. Remember, in the last GSoC, I was walking you through this in the app catalog. Um, so can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the idea, right? So you have a module. You describe your module. That doesn't mean anything. Externally from Airavata client, all you're interacting as a interface. So that's the right thing to do. If you're doing that, you pass the interface ID. An interface ID in its description knows this is particularly belonging from a module. It knows where that module is deployed on one or more resources. So it will take care of it. So all you need to do it is pass this interface and also this host. So in this case, localhost. So you say this is the interface ID and this is the localhost.
Okay,
That's
sir.
the right thing.
Yes, actually, I can create my own interface ID. So that would be means fine. Like I
So
can create. Hello.
let me ask Chatri that can the client pass an interface ID for application when you create it?
Yes,
So
yes, sir. I can pass. I just check it. I passed an interface ID, and then I checked it on XY. I'm not using BGS, so I checked it on XY, and it is showing that ID. And then I created an experiment with that ID. Means like I put the ID as align, and it is working fine.
yeah, so yeah, means maybe the interface ID if it's not unique, it's taking it. But let's say someone
No,
else
sir.
also
Hello. Sorry.
yeah.
Hello. Interface ID is unique, but the name is not unique.
Oh, name you can give. Yeah, name you can give.
No,
That's right.
but
That's true.
I also can give interface ID, but it's unique. Means it should be unique.
No. You're confusing. Why name versus ID? So you are using the Airavata generated ID, or you are passing an ID when you
No, I'm
create.
passing an ID.
Okay.
I'm able to pass an ID also.
Yeah, but what if you pass it again? If you try to create one more interface with the same ID,
Let me check. Let me check it.
yeah, that will fail, right? Basically, that is the main reason.
That should
Yeah.
probably fail. Oh,
Yeah, let's take this and let's move on. Let's ask any further questions on these things on the
Sir, I
chat.
had another query.
Yeah, but always it's a good idea for the server. I mean, not just for Airavata. For any time you're interacting in a client server, you always want to honor the server creates the IDs because the server is the one. The clients are non-coordinated. Multiple clients are talking to a server. Server is the one which generates and ensures the uniqueness. You don't want to trust the clients simply because the clients are non-coordinated.
uh,
Server has the tab of everything.
okay. Sir, ID is unique. When I'm trying to re-register it, it's not re-registering it, but it is not giving any error.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Yeah, and also like I'd encourage if you have any things just comment on the chat or keep sending an email. But I would say get your client codes for whichever language you are working on quickly onto the Airavata repo, because your emails are helping, but it will not help us to try the same codes. We don't know because your code is not somewhere, and for someone to look through in your sandbox, even you make a commit to the sandbox, it takes hard to debug through that. So it's always better to you submit the client samples into the Airavata repo.
How long does it take usually to process a pull request?
Oh, it's just a minute. It should very quickly, right? GitHub does all that for you. Means actually, for instance, Hasini or Supun Hasini can explain that if there's any can show. She's been submitting pull requests for her project. She could probably needed show a small demo. If Abhishek or Priyanshu are getting stuck there.
Okay, Abhishek, I want to make one comment, and that is that just because you can make something work doesn't mean that it's the correct way. So you want to make sure that you and I think you're doing this, but you want to make sure that it's the documented way to do things. And I don't, I mean, I see the client SDK interface, but when I look at the functions, I don't really see a lot of description of each function and what they're guaranteed to return and what they're guaranteed to accept or any of that kind of stuff. So you may have to ask some questions to get that right. But the danger can be that if you do something that you make work, there may be a new Airavata version that comes out and then it won't work. Unless you're doing what's guaranteed to work. So you just have to be careful about that.
Yeah, good point, Emery, and also the others documentation need to be improved. Actually, that's there in the thrift document. Somehow it's not penetrating. It's only penetrating into Java docs, but not into other language docs. We need to look into that.
Yes, sir. That's what I was asking. If we should or we should not.
Yes, I think it's tough to answer without looking at your code. So I suggest why don't you commit your code, then look at your code and give a more opinion. I think because they're unable to clearly follow exactly.
Sir, I'm just passing in interface ID also.
No. Please commit your code. Let's look at the code and then authoritatively speak there, and we can add comments on the code itself.
Yeah, and once everybody really needs to look at the code. I totally agree with Suresh on that, and that way we can run it too. We can understand it. You're doing some good work, but we want to be able to really look at it and carefully.
Yeah.
We may not have a quick answer just from small explanations that you're giving.
Okay, sir.
Yep, that's right, Abhishek. Yeah, you're doing it right. Just keep committing the code. That will help us more. You'll get more concrete answers.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, Dimuthu, do you want to walk through the GridChem diagrams, the document, and can we brainstorm?
Yeah, Suresh, both me and Supun talk about the services, difference between services of Airavata API and GridChem services. So the major areas we have identified are basically file service, because currently I think Airavata API doesn't have a good file service, and I just briefly look at GridChem middleware services, their file service, and you can see the link, and now I'm looking at how to use it, and I'm checking whether we can integrate it to Airavata. And from the perspective of sessions, GridChem middleware uses some kind of session to track the users. So I think this will not be a problem in Airavata because Hasini is working on O2 integration using WSO2 IS, so we can use that same token, access token, as a session key.
Yeah, I just a curious question here to Hasini. So Hasini, how does is a token is supposed to use one time, or like is this the way Dimuthu is saying, like it's okay for the client to cache it and then reuse it for multiple operations?
Yeah, you can reuse it. The auth token has a validity period, and it is configurable at the IS side. So when an admin make their deployment, they can set the validity periods to what they prefer. So yeah, that defines the validity period of the auth access token. Could you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to look through that. So, is that a recommended approach, Hasani? To like that means like you use this validity as like the web servers or any like the portals implement sessions with using that. Is that you recommend that?
Yeah, it's up to the one who deploys the entire thing. So let me tell you the default validity period. So it's like 3,600 seconds.
3,600 seconds, you said?
Yeah, seconds.
Okay.
That means
Yeah, I think that.
6 hours.
So in that time, then the security manager will come. Will need to security manager can make multiple calls to IS on the Airavata side to retrieve a token. Or do you also suggest the Airavata side also it also caches this, has a notion of session?
No, I have not yet implemented the notion of the session at the Airavata side. That is coming up in a future sprint.
Yeah. But what I mean is that the plan? So that the plan is even the server side will have a notion of sessions, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that session will be very request specific, client specific, because it's a security based session which has all the authorization context. Yeah, we need to be careful. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Dimtu. Yeah. So keep going. Let's keep going.
One question from Hasini. Hasini, what is the grant type you are using in IE?
Yes, so I'm planning to support 3 grant types. In the current code that I have submitted, I have supported only the resource owner credential grant type. The other 2 grant types that I plan to be supported are client credential and SAML2 bearer assertion profile.
Okay, because for I use password grant type for BigClaim client to authenticate with WSO2IS. Then I get the access token. So will it be compatible with your implementation? What I get is I send a username and password to the IS, and IS give me the access token. Then I pass that access token to the Airavata API. So what eventually you have is some parameter in each API to get the access token. Is it?
Yes, that will work.
So yeah, then if I pass that access token to your API, to the Airavata API with your security implementations, will it be valid request?
Yes, so then the security manager will validate it by talking to IS.
Okay. Okay, Suresh. So, so I think creating sessions using this access token is possible, and I think this expiration time also can be changed from IS side. The expiration time is not a different one. Hello.
So, Dimuthu, can you please change the Google Doc permission so that anyone can comment? So you have view only. view, can you also change it to view only and comment? So I'll annotating these methods.
Okay, I will give permission.
Suresh,
Yeah, Sukun.
talking about session, I think in Airavata we don't have actually a session concept. We are more like a API server. So actually, our all the data pertaining to a user is coming from the registry. So we actually don't need to maintain sessions at the server level.
No, my curious question, you may be right. My curious question is, I see that like, let's say like, every time you probably don't want, I mean, I think, pardon my ignorance, Hasni here, but I'm trying to think like, you probably, when since the security calls are expensive, you probably don't want to like, revalidate the token and the access permissions if you already know it for particular, for that token,
Yes,
right?
for that, I think for that we can easily cache the validation tokens, but it's not like a web-based session where we store user information for that particular user. Right?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know what the right term is. I was just, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm exactly using that. I was thinking like something like a security session. I meant like, I didn't mean
So,
from a user context. Yeah, the caching is what like you're saying is what I'm referring to. I don't know, Hassan, is there a better term to what do you call that so that you cache that at the server level?
No, the term, there's no problem with the term. I mean, we use the name session, but like from the client side, if the same user invokes like multiple operations from Airavata API, then we do not need to talk to IS each time. So whether it is at the Airavata, so what Supun means is that session should not be maintained at the Airavata server side, but it should be maintained at the client side.
yes, I mean,
But in order to identify that the same user makes the multiple requests, we need to have some kind of record at the server side as well.
yes.
So I have not thought about the session management in detail
Okay.
as of now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like more than the session management, at some point, I think at least like it certainly will be needed from a paper standpoint. Asni will be to like once we put all the security, we could somehow profile and then say what is the latencies added by the security layer. Then like we can think about if the effort is needed.
Yeah.
And one thing, Hashmi, so the in your proposal, I think you are using SACMA to enforce authorization for API methods, right?
Yeah.
So can we use the same approach for control authorization for more domain level entities like computational resources, access controlling of users for projects, etc.?
Yes, you can define fine-grained rules in the SACMA policy.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, so you can define what's the resource to which you are controlling the access, what is the user, and what is the action. Those things you can write rules including those.
So these are not identity server roles, or is that same?
Sorry?
So these the roles that you are telling, is that the identity server roles, or are they different type of roles?
Actually, what I said was rules, not roles.
So sorry.
It's a SACMA rules. in order to control the authorization, we need to actually the admin needs to define the segment policy. So the plan was to like give a default segment policy at the beginning, and if you need more fine-grained authorization rules, the admins can always change the default segment policy.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize you guys are waiting for me. I was watching a different thread on HipChat. Um, Diptu and Supan, this is at least good summary. This is good information. Lecture is like good education for me. I'm curious on like do you guys know the next steps, how you are proceeding, or like anything like you can help here?
One thing, my previous work, that Gridcam client, I dropped a mail to SciGap mailing list, but I didn't get a reply.
Okay, yeah.
So what should I do to that code? Do I need to push it to a separate branch of Gridcam client?
Oh yeah.
Or,
Okay. Yeah. Let me answer that. I dropped that ball. Like, let me answer that right after the call. Like, you respond to your email, and then like we'll make sure that you have a repo, and also I'll make a suggestion on where you want to keep committing, and then like and go from there. I'll send that email both to the SciGap list and also send a pointer to the Airavata dev list.
okay. And for the current phase, I'm I was little bit looking at that file management service of middleware service, whether we can reuse that code, because I think for me it was really hard to uh, send a job to the to Airavata server, which takes files as input. So I'm still unable to get it work. So I think if we can use some kind of this file management service, I think it will be helpful. So may I look at that part?
Yeah, I think it will be very helpful, especially because that whole old access to based interface is like getting um, like clunky, and I'm not sure how long that could be maintained that way. So I think anything you do there, look at it, and then we have a plan to like migrate to some kind of another RPC interface, either REST or Thrift based or something will be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like a REST service might be handy here, because Thrift is not so good with be used as a. I think Sachit looked at this aspect within the Thrift, and then he either blogged or put it somewhere that Thrift is not so. I mean, even the Thrift community did not suggest he be used it as a file streaming protocols.
Yeah.
So looking at some REST service might not be a bad idea for this. I mean, along with like you're getting through that, and then carving out of the current middleware. So because I think like the key challenge, I think you guys got it right. So on here, that like you need, once you block all of this, anything which working in Airavata, you want to directly rely on the API, and anything which is not existing in Airavata, at least in intermediate level, we need to push it all into a one lightweight Gitcam middleware service. Okay, I'll answer the questions, Dimut, on the mailing list. Anything else here and related to this project?
Yeah. So what is my next? What should be my next phase, Suresh? Looking at digging into this comparison thing, or continue with client implementation.
Yeah, I think like the immediate next thing will be to just get the GridCam client code checked in and then have Sudhakar try it and basically make it packaged. I mean, you probably already have all of that, and we try it out. Actually, we should try it out, and then while you are waiting on that, probably you want to move on to this thing, file manager service, and see how you
Yeah.
can carve it out, and then. Because Supun, do you have a good sense of how much of this will require changes in Airavata point 16? Anything like you see urgently like which we could put it into the task list of point 16?
I haven't gone through completely yet, Suresh. This weekend I'll go through and let you know with a complete document.
Yeah. So I think like what we should do is Dimuto and Supun, I think we should lay out like some weekly. I mean revisit the weekly bi-weekly plans here. Basically, because like there's a lot of learning you guys had in the last few weeks. You understand the project better. We kind of also, with the progress Demuto is making, kind of like put some little more ambitious goals here. So it'd be good to revisit all of that and then lay it out like so we know clearly we have a clear development path here.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys. I think this is very helpful. Like the way you guys analyze that. So let's keep going. So yeah, I think the last one we have to discuss is Hasni's project. So Hasni, first thing is um, yeah, I think like yeah, just so that like Priyanshu and Abhishek look at it. So basically, what Dimutu and Supun here are talking is exactly like what Janap. So the Janap is replaced by GridCam. The way Janap is planning to use Airavata, like the same way Dimutu is trying to make GridCam use Airavata work. So that's a part of the point to discuss on all these on the same call. So you guys know like how others are using Airavata. So Janap is GridCam will be using the Java client of Airavata, whereas in Janap you have a challenge to use more clients. So once we have all the clients, we can share notes here. Yeah. So Hasini, yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, Suresh. So, in the last patch that I submitted, I only updated the Java clients
Huh?
based on the changes I did for the API. So, in the next one, I'm planning to change all the API methods and then change all the clients SDKs as well.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just
So
want to make an art.
yeah, so you want to keep focused on that one method and making sure that it fully works for all the scenarios before you move on, right?
Yes, so I wanted to check with you all whether those changes are okay before changing all the API methods.
Yeah, so I think this is all good. I'm just curious on like making a. So I think I wanted to answer this on the your Jira ticket to Hasini. So there will be use cases like where um, basically what happens is I'm just thinking both sides of this argument where there are two hosts. Let's say the PGA and Airavata are all sitting on a trusted environment and they are very good firewall controlled. I'm wondering like whether we should like disable security LS there. Probably it's still not a good idea, right? Because there are this over the wire communication which can be bound to replay attacks and so on. If someone is
And also you said
yeah.
that from Airavata's side you need to identify the notion of the user. So currently the end user identity is not maintained at Airavata's side, right? You said
That's
that
right.
you need user attributes also for some kinds of
Yeah.
operations. So in that case, you need to authenticate user, even though all the communications from like gateway to Airavata are secured, still you need to identify the user, right?
Okay. Yep. So I think like I didn't have any further comments like Hasani, other than like if, the development side, like once we have yeah, this whole issue about passing some random string instead of a null, since it's a required field, and I mean, I don't think so we have any good solution there, right?
Yeah, because if the security is enabled, we can enable disable security from configuration file, but if it is enabled, then that should be a required field.
But I thought like the issue was even if it's also not enabled, even if it's not enabled, I think like this is causing a problem. It will cause a problem simply because the thrift model,
Yeah,
the API method will have a required field.
yeah, we have to define it as a required field in thrift
Yeah,
API
and we have to
definition.
require. I think there is no other solution. Yeah, I think like I think yeah, we
That's
have to live with
fine.
it. I think that's the right thing to do there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm personally okay to proceed. Like Hasni, like just on the
Yeah.
timeline. So on July 9th, we have a um, half day like review with the security team here. So at that
Mm-hmm.
point, like we want to really take this in a technical level and then even get them verified, because the grant flows advice that I got from them was slightly different than what you done, but I'm not knowledgeable enough on this topic to weigh in one way or another, because they were pretty much against the resource grant, the grant flow.
Is there any
Uh,
reason?
so their impression suggestion was, and these guys are like when they are full. I mean, they are auth expert. They're maybe they may be spec authors too. I didn't check like so, but that's why like I want to check with them like.
Mhm. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you can let me know the reason why.
Can I like
So
instead of waiting until July 9th will be too late. So why didn't I start an email thread right away? And like
yeah,
and find out like from Scott Coranda here particularly, who was giving this recommendation, and ask him like why exactly he suggested the implicit grant flow for the Gritcom like use case, which like you seem to you think that you're not working on the implicit grant flow right now, right?
yes, I mean that can be implemented from the clients that supports those are based on browsers, right? So those two grant types, the authorization code and implicit grant types, those are for browser-based clients. So you can
Yeah.
implement that, but
No, I mean,
since Mhm.
sure, go on, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, since the Airavata and IES, those two are already trusted, there's no need for those two grant types. So basically, those two are used when the client is not trusted by the authorization server. So it's a custom web application. But if you consider the Facebook and a third-party client application, then you go for those two grant types, because the Facebook doesn't trust the third-party client application. So in this case, the IS and IRA API are trusted.
But
So
in the resource owner passport credentials grant, so
mhm.
you plan to implement that, right?
Yeah, actually for three scenarios, so we identified several scenarios of identity management at the beginning, right? So for different scenarios, I have mentioned which grant types that I will use. So for scenario one, it will be like resource owner credential grant type. Likewise, so for other two
Yeah.
scenarios,
So here, this is where like I had, I think like there was also one conflict, like where Scott thought like the resource owner passport credential is not supposedly to be used more because it was added as an afterthought in the spec, and he said there are some vulnerabilities. I mean, I forgot like where because you pass a password there, you don't pass, right? I mean, I thought like he said that this.
No, the only concern is that you provide the credential to the client, which is the gateway. But
Yeah.
that already happens, right? The user is authenticated from the gateway application, whether it's a web-based application or a mobile application. So user first authenticates there, right?
Yeah.
Providing the credentials. So the only concern with the resource owner credential grant app is that the user provides credential to the third-party client application. That's a problem. In order to prevent that, in authorization code and implicit cross-site, the third-party web application redirects the user to the authorization server, where the user provides a credential. But here,
we go with the client credentials grant flow for like when you don't have to deal with the client credentials, right? For the use cases where Airavata is not doing the user management. Like in this case, the GenApp you might have followed like the use case, like the first one. Will it follow under the client credentials grant flow because it has its own user management? Do not use the IS for user management.
Yeah, and if the gateway does not want to share the user information, then they establish mutual trust using client credential grant and does not pass any information about the user to the clients.
Yeah, they might provide some handle that this is about this user A, but nothing more. So when they don't share, they don't allow us to access back their user store for authentication or authorization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, we'll follow the client credentials one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Specifically for the use case 2, option 1 we have identified.
Okay. Yeah, I think like I'll do this like Hasini. I think like you can proceed. You don't need to stop on this because sometimes these guys are busy and don't respond in time. So, but I'll just send them an email pointing to your thread, basically what you summarized with the grant flows you're using, and ask them to critique it. And I'll also remind them what they suggested before, and I'll highlight the differences and then like try to hash that in that email.
Okay. So whatever the grant type, yeah, that sounds good. So whatever the grant type you use, the security manager code will not change. So what will change is the client-side implementation of how you obtain the access to.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And for PGA, like I think like yeah, it looks like you'll be helping Supan on how to do that, right? How we obtain at least because PGA use case is like the PHP gateway use case is kind of well defined here. So probably that will follow the authorization code and flow. Is that right?
No, currently I recommend. I mean, I think we can go with the resource owner credential.
Okay. Yeah. Even for the PHP. Okay, that's what you're recommending.
Okay. Anyway, Suresh, we are currently creating users from PGA, so I think we don't need to. We can trust the PGA. The user creation is also done by the PGA. So in that case, we can consider that as a trusted application and use the user credential.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Okay. I think thanks, Hassan. I think this is very useful. Like the way like the patches and the way everything you described. So it was at least it helped me to understand like where you are and what's the problem. Yeah. So I think like I'll get the reviews, but otherwise I think let's proceed. I think probably unless like you hear otherwise. I think the main thing is Supun is the one I kind of validating is on behalf of Airavata. So. As long as someone is trying it and then updating it, I think we can keep proceeding, adding to other clients and keep testing.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think this is a note for everyone. So I think the way the code is structured is the stable branch is 0.15. I would recommend probably this 0.15 for Abhishek, Priyanshu, and probably Dimuthu too, like at least for the stable ones. If he's adding new ones, then they'll go to 0.16. So the 0.16 is which is the what the current master is. it's going to be a little bit turbulent for a while. It'll take a few weeks before it settles down, because as you might have seen the other email threads on the dev list, Shamira and Chetri are actively refactoring things around, and then getting things streamlined more. So that will make 0.16 a little unstable. The master, current points master. So for your use cases, so you can keep making progress, I suggest you switch to the 0.15 branch, and then that will be released very soon. And then we are just waiting for our scan gateway to verify that. I think we are close there. So yeah, so please switch to the 0.15 and use when you're trying it out.
Suresh, I'm submitting patches for 0.16.
Oh yeah, you're that's right, Hassan. Yeah. I missed the last portion, and then yes, we need to get the security portion for 0.16. That's because that's the target. The releases for 0.16, we'll get the security ones.
Okay. And I want to add a small comment on what Supun said last. So Supun, even though the clients trust client and IS, those are trusted. If you want to have the notion of the end user, then you have to go with the. No, you can still go with the client credential and pass the user handler. Yeah. No, so yeah, sorry about the confusion. I mean, you can use either grant type, either resource owner credential or client credential, and if you're using the client credential, you have to pass the user handle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I'm honestly I'm a little bit confused, with this, and I'll read the spec a little more closely to understand these grant flows, and also follow on your thread. Then probably I'll get some more reasonable understanding of this. Okay, anything else from anyone?
Yeah, I wanted to get a little clarity on the CLI samples.
Sure.
So it may be that I don't know exactly what Abhishek has done with his PHP registration, but it may be that he has sort of a separate version of some command line samples that he's created. That I'm not sure. Abhishek, did you use the PHP CLI samples for your registry, or you have your own specific registry code?
So I've made my own specific registry code using Java. I converted the Java code to PHP code.
Okay, so you took the Java and made a PHP version of it.
I made the PHP.
Okay, so should the client samples, should we move that to subdirectories where we have, sort of this person's one or that person's one or this version or that type of? I mean, I know ideally you'd have one set of master samples, but I can see that there'll be some different versions. And then, for example, in the C++, maybe we want to keep Nadim's version in a subdirectory and then bring in Priyanshu's in its own subdirectory.
Yeah, PHP, each one is organized that way, Emily. So to add to what you're saying, I suggest each language clients be contributed as patches to the Airavata repo and gets maintained there.
Right, but what I'm saying is there may be multiple PHP client CLI sample sets, and right now we have one set.
What? Oh, sorry, then I missed that part. What is the difference between the multiple sets?
Well, one set is what you currently have out there, and another set is Abhishek's new version of it. That is, he wrote a new one from scratch using the Java as a reference.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. So to clarify on that, the current set is bad set. It was the early version. I think we need to remove the current sets out of the way. I think we need to eventually, if they are doing the same thing, we should somehow consolidate it to one set and maintain it, Emily. Unless it has distinct functions, we should just
make
consolidate.
So maybe we make an attic subdirectory and put the old stuff in the attic for now, or not? I mean, because it might be nice to reference something that was done because it wasn't here in the new one, or there's not this or that.
Yeah, and of course, Git. I mean, so you can go to GitHub, looking at the directory and see all the history, and then like also get to all the. Means I think we can take advantage of all the revision controls, and then also move that. Yeah, but it's okay to move to the attic too. Yeah, but eventually, like we need to get like to one set for one.
Agreed. But for right now, and during testing and debugging and their development, it may be that they're just developing maybe things that are GenApp specific right now. That are it's not that the registry is GenApp specific, but what they're doing is only implementing facilities that are needed by GenApp. So instead of writing full set of every API example usage, they're writing what we need to get done to move forward. So
I think like my favor is only to support what we all actively are using, because full API support, like it does. I mean, that's one reason. Like I pulled the trigger of the current samples, because we attempted to write the full one, and if we don't maintain it and don't keep it updated, it's no good. Rather, like I favor only to put the versions which we all use, whether it could be you, and then like whatever PGA uses and Ultrascan uses. These are the 3 PHP examples currently: GenApp, the Airavata PHP reference gateway, and the Ultrascan. So we just only should maintain them, but not all the API functions.
Okay. So they can just put them in the PHP client samples directory and recommend removing everything else?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So once they contribute what they have done, I can do that cleanup.
Okay. And then Priyanshu, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
So I see that your bug was with 0.14. Have you tried 0.15?
No, sir.
So maybe that'll just clear up magically when you go to 0.15.
Oh yeah, actually that's very right. I highly recommend moving out of 0.4 quickly, because 0.5 is kind of stable. The 0.5 branch is almost like release 1 now. We haven't been touching it stabilized. So I highly recommended you guys try 0.5.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So I can match the part of the code in which there is work in which there is occurring.
I didn't get that, Priyanshu.
So what I'm saying is I can match the part of the code in which error is occurring between 0.5 and 0.14, and then find if there are any changes in that.
Yeah, I don't think so. The API change anything between 0.14 and 1.5. It should be almost same. If there are any subtle changes, they will settle. For 0.15 to 0.16, there will be one big jump, because 1.6, so that everyone is on board. 1.6 is the one which we plan to go make it like a stable 1.0 release, and keep the API stable after that for a year or two. So 0.15 to 1.6, there might be changes. So, but 0.15 is good, and then our hope is to get 0.16 API also out very soon, so that before GSoC, you'll also transition to 0.16, and then that should remain constant for at least a year or two from there.
So I guess they need to, Abhishek and Priyanshu, you need to make sure you're running on 0.15 release branch now. And 1.16, the main thing is going to be there's this huge layer of security.
Yeah, that's the main thing. We are also basically, Emre, since the Thrift API came in a couple of years ago, since then it almost remained same. So, and with all these lessons learned, we are trying to make this one big shift, because some objects are too big, some are too hierarchical, the data models are not clearly coming out. So, in addition to being security, it might be that some API functions and the data models themselves will be some changes there.
Okay.
Yeah, so there might be some substantial, but I'll be there to help with the transition to Abhishek and Priyanshu there to make that jump.
Okay.
Yeah, but in addition to the security too, which we also will be an important one for GenApp, we need to figure this out, how that will all work it out.
Yeah, we may. I would like to get everything else done and deal with the security last.
Sure,
it's a very important thing. It's a very important thing.
Somehow that's always that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the proof of concept, and then we can add the security later once it's working.
Sure, sure. Sounds good. So let's keep focused on a 0.15 for a foreseeable feature. So like, and also this your patches should go into the 0.15 branch too, so that they get released. So try to speed up on, like, try to get your patches. Don't worry in whatever state they are, just get it up there in the repo, and then we'll improve there, right there. The samples. Okay, thanks everyone. I think we had a call, but I think hopefully, I think this will get useful to clear up doubts and everything. So
Yeah, I agree. It's really good. It's good to have these meetings.
yeah.
So you feel, Abhishek and Priyanshu, you both happy with where you're at? You know what to do next?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Then let's talk again next week then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.